Donald Trump talks casually about using torture and allowing more countries to get nuclear weapons, or when Ted Cruz calls for treating American Muslims like criminals and racially profiling predominantly Muslim neighborhoods, that doesn't make them sound strong. It makes them sound in over their heads.
Well, the Clinton machine takes the show to New York. Hillary kicked off her campaign in Harlem, targeting GOP candidates and her Democratic rival Bernie Sanders, but her campaign may have bigger worries just over the horizon. Now, according to Al Jazeera America, FBI Director James Comey will actually interview Clinton himself. Reporter David Schuster says the FBI is wrapping up its probe into her private email server, and investigators are nearing a verdict as to whether or not they will seek criminal charges against Clinton. For more on this now, let's welcome in our guest joining us. Noah Rothman is the assistant online editor of Commentary Magazine. Noah, great to talk to you. It's been a while. Good to have you back with us.
Thank you very much for having me. Appreciate it.
All right. Well, what do you make about this story coming from Al Jazeera America that James Comey might actually interview Clinton himself? What does it say to you?
Well, she was supposed to have some interviews with the FBI. It's remarkable that she's having interviews with the FBI director. And that suggests the seriousness with which the FBI is taking this investigation and their intent to wrap it up pretty quickly. There was some reporting not too long ago that suggested that they wanted to have this investigation over and done with before the nominating conventions because they don't want to interfere with the political process. That's understandable. This is an independent agency. They want to maintain their independence. So I would anticipate that there's going to be a lot of pressure on the team investigating this to come to a conclusion and to come to it pretty soon, whatever that may be. Again, I find it pretty hard to believe that there would be a recommendation rolling down from the FBI to the DOJ for an indictment, but that might be the possibility, particularly if they put some pressure on this to move it forward quickly.
Now, we're looking at the prospect of a misdemeanor charge. If that is the case, do you think Clinton could survive that? If it comes well before the nominating convention, obviously well before the general election, would Democratic voters say no big deal?
Democratic voters would say no big deal. Democratic voters have said no big deal. Democratic opposition has said no big deal. Bernie Sanders himself has said, we're sick of hearing about your damn emails. If they wanted to make an issue about this, they would have. They could have made this an issue of competence, of honesty, of trustworthiness, issues that resonate with the electorate at large. They chose not to. Democrats do not see this as an issue for Hillary Clinton. They see it as Hillary Clinton has framed it, a matter of Republican politicking, of Republican witch hunt, and they agree with that framing. So it's up to the general election to render or general electorate rather, to render a verdict on whether or not this matters for Hillary Clinton. Also, everybody should Google the term high crimes and misdemeanors. It might come into play here. Well, let's talk about her campaign in New York. Things aren't looking so great in Wisconsin, but according to a Quinnipiac University poll, she is beating Bernie Sanders in New York by 12 points. She's basically abandoned her campaign in Wisconsin. Bill Clinton was out on the stump today for her 3 different places. Do you think she's given up on Wisconsin and is trying to build a firewall around New York? Yeah, I would imagine that there's kind of diminishing returns to continue to contest the Washington primary. As she's not doing terribly, frankly, in Wisconsin, but it's still sort of that upper northwestern region that Bernie Sanders has overperformed in. He surprised everybody with his Michigan win, narrow, but albeit a demonstration that he can perform in the upper Midwest. And I think he's probably going to perform very well there. But New York is her home state, and it's most certainly a state with a lot more delegates at play. The next couple of weeks are where Hillary Clinton expects to really rocket out of contention. Already, Bernie Sanders is demonstrating signs that his campaign is beginning to wither, I suppose, under the intensity of having to compete in all 50 states, which I don't believe he expected that he ever would be able to. His campaign didn't even make the ballot in Washington, D.C. So, it's going to be a tough climb for Bernie Sanders moving forward, and I think Hillary Clinton wants to make a real statement with a big, definitive, delegate-heavy win in a state like New York.
Try to wrap it up. All right, let's go ahead and bring in Dick Morris, who's also joining us right now, author of Power Grab. Dick, thanks for joining us.
Who is the guy who just spoke?
That's Noah Rothman from Commentary Magazine.
Okay, well, he's an idiot.
Come on, Dick, take it easy.
Bernie Sanders, hey, come on. He says the campaign's withering. Bernie Sanders raised $44 million in March. He says that Sanders is showing signs of collapsing. He was 38 behind 2 weeks ago in New York. He's 12 behind now. He's ahead in Wisconsin. In the national polling, he's close within 6. If you call that withering, I wonder what you would call reviving.
Well, he does have big crowds, and you're right about the money. There does not seem to be a real path forward for him. But I want to ask you, Dick, because you recently talked about John Kasich. You want him to you say it's time for him to get out of the race. The longer he stays in, the more it helps Donald Trump. But we talked about the Real Clear Politics average poll. He is the only one who beats Hillary Clinton. Do you think that statistic is irrelevant?
Well, I think there's a lot that goes on in a campaign, and you can always come back. I think Kasich could defeat Hillary, and I would be enthusiastic if he were the nominee. But he's got 200 delegates. He's got no shot at it. The most he has a shot at is deadlocking the convention. It'll go to 20 ballots. But I just want to get back to the Bernie Sanders thing. Anybody who is looking at the national trends at this point has got to understand that Sanders is coming on very strong. And just as he went from behind in Wisconsin and in Michigan and ended up winning one and will win the other, I think you have got to look at him in New York. And that guy before me said that New York was Hillary Clinton's home state. Are you freaking kidding me? Bernie Sanders grew up in Brooklyn.
Well, he hasn't been there in a long time. Vermont is his home state, and Dick, she does have a significant lead. And also, the demographics moving forward for Bernie Sanders don't look good. He has only been able to win these states where the minority population is not very big. And in basically every state moving ahead, there is a large minority population. That's definitely one of the headwinds he's going to face.
John, Michigan's 15% black. Has anyone told you that? New York is 12. So what's the deal?
All right, Noah, let's give you the last word to weigh in here.
Yeah, I would say that to suggest that there is a path forward to him to the delegate pathway that he needs, which includes winning over the some 430 to 30 superdelegates that are already aligned with Hillary Clinton, including New York superdelegates who are saying they're not budging even if Bernie Sanders wins his state. That's a really hard hill to climb. And guess what? Half the country has already voted. National polls don't matter. You can be rocketing ahead in the national polls, but if you've had half the union already cast their votes, who cares what the other people who've already voted think? To suggest there's a pathway to the nomination for Bernie Sanders stretches the imagination. It's not impossible, but it's very, very unlikely.
All right, gentlemen, we'll have to leave it there. Thanks for the spirited discussion. We'll see you both again soon. Hopefully, Dick, we're out of time. I got to run here. Coming up next on Newsmax Now, the CDC releases a new autism report. Why this is significant, we'll tell you about that coming up. Plus, Donald Trump's having a pretty bad week. First, his campaign manager was arrested. Now he's dealing with intense backlash over those abortion comments. We'll discuss this and if people may have finally reached their limit with Donald Trump. I wouldn't bet on that, but you never know. We're coming back with more on Newsmax Now.